So you know that trend where everyone's doing their 2025 bingo card? I thought, how fun would it be if I did a 2025 Bookish bingo card? So I went straight to Canva and I designed Ruby Jean's Bookish bingo card. I'm also gonna share this down below as like a PDF in case you guys want to like do it with me, I guess. So this is a 5x5 bingo card, so we had 25 slots to fill. Obviously we started with the freebie smack in the middle, and it's a cute little heart because why not? Then we have the one bed trope. Now, this is one of my favorite tropes of all time, if done well and if done right. Then we have a killer slow burn. Slow burn is just the best, and if I could only read slow burn books for the rest of my life, I would. But I want a killer slow burn that literally has me kicking and screaming and needing to put the book down every couple minutes. So we need like a killer slow burn. Then number 4. A who did this to you moment that doesn't feel forced. I recently read a book where there was a who did this to you moment, but it was so like just for the sake of being able to put the line who did this to you in there. It wasn't even that significant of a moment in the book either. I feel like that's such a glamorized trope these days that every author tries to use it in every enemies to lovers. But I want one that actually is good. Then we have a cute pet name that's not cringy. The pet name in Throne of Glass, Fireheart, I'm obsessed with. Like, Fireheart is the sweetest, most adorable pet name ever. I've read some books recently where the main love interest decides to give a pet name to their love, and it kills me and I hate it. I need a good, cute, bookish pet name. Then, of course, we have the forced proximity trope. I love this one. I know there's so many sub-tropes under this that I just have not experienced yet that I really want to. So, I need a good forced proximity. Then we have, and this one's almost kind of a gag, the vulgar gesture. It's in all the books, especially if you read romantasy like I do, because they can't use modern language in a romantasy. So it seems like it's just the consensus that authors are using the term vulgar gesture. It makes me cringe. It makes me die inside, but I also think it's the funniest thing ever. So bingo slot for vulgar gesture. And it has to be specifically those 2 words, vulgar gesture. Then we have the titles in the book. I know for some books this is like kind of duh and easy, but I don't know why. I'm kind of just one of those people, I guess, whenever I get across the title on the page, I'll like try to get my husband's attention just so he can see it, even though he has no idea what's happening in the book, and frankly, he's not a reader, so he probably doesn't really care. But you know what? It's fine, because he's happy for me anyways. Now, this one's just wishful thinking. This is me putting it out into the universe. But this next bookish bingo slot is a Sarah J. Maas bookish announcement, whether that's the next ACOTAR book, whether that's revealing a cover, whether that's a significant update to the ACOTAR TV show, whether that's the announcement of what the 4th series is going to be about. I don't care. I just need something from Sarah J. Maas. She's been giving us nothing since this book came out. Like she's been giving us crumbs, and we eat up those crumbs every single time she drops them. But I want to know what's on the plate. Then we have read an arc. I'm actually reading an arc right now, but in the new year, I want to get another arc. I would love a physical copy. I feel like a lot of authors have been sending me the e-versions of their books, which is fine. That's free, and they're trying to, the most budget-friendly way, promote their book without a publisher. But I really would love to have like a physical arc. Next is a Stephanie Garber new book or new series announcement. Need I say more? This one is kind of silly, but a Taylor Swift lyric in a book. I feel like this is actually becoming a common thing. There's been times where like I've come across something, even if it's just like a normal phrase used in everyday language, but because Taylor Swift used it in one song, I like sing the line as I read it. That's rare, but it's happened a couple times.
If I had a nickel for every single time that happened, I'd have 3 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened 3 times, right?
This next one, number 13, is going to be a main character death. Obviously, I never want this to happen. A good author knows when it's time for a main character to go and how to do that well. I'm not talking about Sarah J. Maas, unfortunately. These next 3 ones are 2 lovers tropes. I have a good enemies to lovers, a good friends to lovers, and a good forbidden lovers, or otherwise known as star-crossed lovers. Like, enemies to lovers, this is probably going to be one of the first ones I check off other than freebie, frankly, because everyone's writing enemies to lovers right now because that's what's popular. But I haven't read a good friends to lovers in a really long time that I'd really be interested in. And then the Star-Crossed or Forbidden Lovers, I read a book recently that did this really well. I'll leave it here. I think it's called like 1,000 Heartbeats. It's basically a retelling of Romeo and Juliet, but it was done so well. And I want more of those. I do really enjoy those. Next, we have good disability representation. I feel like this is starting to become more of a common thing, and I feel like I actually do learn a lot about certain life experiences, even if it's through the guise of like a fantasy world. Next is a murder mystery within a fantasy. Listen, I didn't know that this would be something I was like crazy about until I read the very first Crescent City book. It's like a murder mystery in a fantasy world, and I ate that up. And ever since then, I've been thinking like, I need a good fantasy murder mystery. If you know any fantasy murder mysteries, please leave them in the comments below because I need suggestions. I don't even know where to begin to look for one of those. Next is a POV switch book to book. I usually hate this, but the Belladonna trilogy actually totally changed my mind, where the first 2 books are in one POV and then the 3rd book is in another. I absolutely loved it. It felt like a really good time for a switch, and it felt like a whole new story while still staying true to the original plot of book 1. It was beautifully done, and it changed my mind about POV switches in book series, so I'm interested to read some more. This next one, and this one isn't necessarily one that I'm looking for per se, but I haven't read it before, but that is time travel within a fantasy. I usually hate all things time travel, but if it's within a fantasy, I might be interested. So I'm gonna keep an eye out for that. I like genres within other genres. Then this next one, my first ever Bookish video that I ever made was a 24-hour reading challenge, and it's been a while since I've done another one. So I think I want to try to do another 24-hour reading challenge next year. Number 22, I want to read a book with a created language. I always think these are so cool and clever and crafty, and I feel like it shows like that the author put a lot of extra love and care into the book, and not just like one person says one line in like an unknown language. Like, I want it to actually be like a big part of the plot. Next is a 5-star book. Clearly, I'm hoping when I start off the year strong with Percy Jackson, I'm gonna get a 5-star book there. Then 24 is going to be a 1-star book that I did not DNF. Not that I actually want a 1-star, but I want to push myself to actually finish a book even if I'm not loving it. I used to pride myself on like really powering through a book even if I didn't love it, but I feel like recently these days I just DNF books a little too quickly than I would like. So we're gonna push ourselves. Then the last one, and I did talk about this a lot in my ACOTAR casting video, but I want a fantasy book series where either the main character or one of the bigger characters is a shapeshifter. I think this is one of the coolest abilities that someone could have in a fantasy world. It's personally the ability I would choose if I could pick any ability from any fantasy book I've ever read. And I think the concept of shapeshifting is just insanely cool and amazing. So, that being said, if you also know any shapeshifting books or books that have a lot to do with shapeshifting, put those down in the comments below too, because I will pick up one of them as soon as humanly possible. So this is my 2025 Bookish bingo card. Like I said before, it is linked down in the description below if you do want to copy for yourself. But while you're waiting for that to print, you should definitely go check out this playlist if you haven't already, and you should subscribe so you get notified whenever I post another Bookish video.